Throughout history, we've told ourselves a comforting lie that only men are capable of monstrous cruelty, that women, as caregivers and nurturers, are somehow immune to the cold logic of murder. But behind that myth lies a darker truth, a truth written in poison bottles, blood-stained sheets, shallow graves, and hushed courtroom confessions. Tonight, we uncover the chilling stories of the most notorious female serial killers in history, women who killed not out of sudden rage or defense, but with calculation, greed, and malice. Their methods were as varied as their motives: poison, strangulation, suffocation, bludgeoning. Their victims included lovers, family, strangers, even the most vulnerable among us. These are not crimes of passion. These are careers in murder. Serial killers have always fascinated and terrified us. They are the monsters in human skin, the living embodiment of evil without conscience. And though men commit the vast majority of these crimes, history offers a chilling roster of women who matched and sometimes surpassed their male counterparts in cruelty. Their crimes challenge our assumptions about femininity, compassion, and empathy. And perhaps that is what makes them so unsettling. Over the next hour, we will meet 10 of history's most infamous female serial killers. We will walk through their crimes, their lives, and the horrors they left behind. Not to glorify them, but to understand the darkness they carried with them and the warning their stories still hold. She was America's first female serial killer to hit the highways, Eileen Wuornos, a drifter and prostitute whose life spiraled into violence and revenge. Between 1989 and 1990, she murdered 7 men along Florida's highways. She claimed they tried to rape her, that she was acting in self-defense. But the truth was more complex and more chilling. Wuornos shot her victims at close range, robbed them, and abandoned their cars. When police finally caught her, she displayed anger, paranoia, and a deep resentment toward men. Her trials were media circuses. She raged at prosecutors, journalists, even her own lawyers. And in her final moments before execution, she delivered an unrepentant prophecy. "I'll be back." Was she a victim turned predator, or a remorseless killer who hid behind a plea of self-defense? Perhaps both, a symbol of violence begetting violence, a cycle with 7 dead bodies in its wake. Her victims called her Granny. The press called her the giggling Granny. But her laughter wasn't innocent. It was the eerie cackle of a poisoner who killed for fun, profit, and spite. Born in Alabama, Nanny Doss was a serial widow who killed 4 of her husbands, her own mother, 2 sisters, her grandson, and her mother-in-law. How? Poison. Arsenic in pies and stews. Insurance money followed each death, but police later concluded she also killed for the thrill. When arrested in 1954, she laughed and joked about the murders. She confessed eagerly, smiling through details that would chill anyone else. "I was searching for the perfect mate," she said, but her idea of perfection was simple, someone she didn't have to kill. In the late 1800s, the streets of Liverpool hid a pair of sisters whose family home became a killing ground. Catherine Flanagan and Margaret Higgins had discovered an easy way to make money, ensure friends, boarders, and family members, then poison them. They fed their victims arsenic, watching them die in agony while collecting small life insurance payouts. Investigators eventually noticed a pattern of deaths in the sisters' home. Exhumations revealed arsenic in the bodies. The trial shocked Victorian society. Women were supposed to be moral anchors of the home. Instead, these sisters turned domestic life into a deadly trap. In 1884, they were hanged together, united in life and in death, leaving behind a legacy of betrayal for profit. Mexico City was gripped by terror. Elderly women were being strangled in their own homes. Police were baffled. Witnesses described a woman, sometimes dressed as a nurse, who gained their trust. The killer was Juana Barraza, a former professional wrestler known as the Silent Lady in the ring. She murdered at least 17 older women between the late 1990s and 2006. Her motive? A seething hatred of her own abusive mother projected onto strangers. She used stockings, telephone cords, or bare hands. She robbed them, but the rage in her killings suggested a personal vendetta against vulnerability itself. When caught, Barraza confessed to some murders but showed little remorse. Today, she is serving a life sentence in Mexico, a living reminder that monsters can hide behind any face, even one that smiles at your door. Victorian England was a time of cholera, poverty, and primitive medicine, perfect cover for a poisoner. Mary Ann Cotton exploited this grim backdrop with chilling efficiency. She married, poisoned, and buried husband after husband. Her children, too, died mysteriously, 11 of her 13. Insurance payouts arrived after each death, but suspicions were slow to follow. Arsenic symptoms mirrored cholera. Finally, an autopsy revealed her secret. She was arrested, tried, and hanged in 1873. Mary Ann Cotton went a children's rhyme of the time. She's dead and she's rotten. But for decades, she was anything but. She was methodical, unfeeling, and unseen, a killer hiding behind the image of a grieving wife and mother. Sacramento, California, a quiet boarding house for the elderly, run by a kindly, grandmotherly figure. Dorothea Puente seemed the perfect caretaker until police began digging up her yard. Underneath the flower beds lay her tenants, 7 confirmed, perhaps more unproven. Puente murdered them for their government checks. She was a master of appearances, polite, soft-spoken, and deadly. Her trial was a media spectacle. She insisted she was innocent, even as the evidence piled up. She died in prison, still protesting her innocence, a quiet old woman who used her smile as camouflage for murder. A nurse sworn to heal, but devoted to death. Jane Toppin worked in Boston hospitals in the late 1800s. Patients trusted her. They didn't know she experimented on them, mixing morphine and atropine in doses designed to bring them to the brink of death and back for her own sexual thrill. She confessed to 31 murders. Her goal, she said, was to have killed more people, helpless people, than any other man or woman who ever lived. Declared insane, she spent the rest of her life in an asylum, but her case left a legacy of fear, forever changing the trust between patients and nurses. Early 19th century Germany. Gesche Gottfried was seen as a saintly caregiver during cholera outbreaks, but instead of curing, she poisoned those around her, her parents, children, friends, even her lovers, 15 in total. She wept at funerals, winning public sympathy and gifts of charity. When authorities exhumed the bodies, they found arsenic. In 1831, she was publicly executed by beheading, the last such execution in Bremen. The city branded her a symbol of betrayal, the angel of mercy who delivered only death. Italy, 1939. Leonarda Cianciulli ran a fortune-telling shop in Correggio. She believed human sacrifice would protect her children from death during World War II. She lured 3 women to her home. She killed them with an axe, dismembered them, and turned their remains into soap and tea cakes. She boasted of her efficiency. Police discovered the grisly evidence in her workshop. Convicted, she spent decades in an asylum. Her case remains one of Italy's most horrifying true crime legends, a mother who believed murder was an act of love. Victorian London, a society that shunned unwed mothers. Into this cruel system stepped Amelia Dyer. She promised to adopt unwanted babies for a fee, but she rarely fed them. Instead, she strangled them, sometimes immediately after receiving payment. Police recovered over a dozen bodies from the Thames. It's believed she killed hundreds over decades. When caught, she offered no remorse. She was hanged in 1896. Amelia Dyer wasn't just a killer. She was an industrial-scale murderer, exploiting society's cruelty to commit her own. These women remind us that evil has no single face, that violence isn't bound by gender. They hid their cruelty behind trust, tradition, family, even motherhood. And that is what makes them so terrifying. The truth is, anyone can kill. And sometimes, the ones we least suspect are the most dangerous of all. Thank you for watching Shadows of Crime. If you want more true crime stories that delve into the darkest corners of human nature, subscribe and join us as we uncover the truth that hides in the shadows.